Okay, great. Hello and welcome everyone. So today, Dr. Aravinda will be talking about space archaeology in Mars. So when you're ready, just take it away.
Okay, excellent. And thank you very much for the Mars Society giving us this opportunity. And today, as one of our study, today we are going to be presented space archaeology. It means like a aspect of the human as a multiplanetary species in 2050. I'm Dr. Aravinda Ravibhanu from the Quest from Sri Lanka, and my other co-authors, Jinudasa Katapotha, Majda Autiton, and Siddharth Pandey, and Bernie Taylor. So actually, basically, what we are trying to discuss on today, after we have a colonization on Mars, and how it's going to be affecting to the our culture and the civilizations and the other legal and policy background. So considering of the Mars, so still we don't have exact data which is represent the yes, we do have formations of the life, but it's so hard to compare the any kind of a life and as well as kind of a life based on the human, because of it's so hard to express the meaning of the life. But later on, after we having popularizations of the Homo sapiens, and there are a lot of cultures who are around the world. There are a lot of ethnic groups. There are a lot of races. There are a lot of countries, even though currently. So in fact, we may have to just concern. So how we can just think about those culture and just having some of conservations of those culture, even though when we are just heading to the another planet, what will happen to those culture. That's why we may have to think why we importance of those life, because of still we are just looking for some of exact water resources on the Mars like planet Earth, but still we don't have that much type of exact evidences. But when we having some of simulation in between planet Earth and the Mars, so the case is most of cultural patterns and the prehistorical background in planet Earth that has been started very close to the like a river, or maybe like some of cultural valley. So I will just explain in later on. But all the base scenario on the life, because of the if it is some sort of like a microbial life or whatever the life, it's so important to think how we just going to be tolerate with the culture, because of whatever technology that we have been just spreaded. So the culture is something like fundamental things, and the civilizations and our habitability, those are the things that we need as a part of the our sociological pattern. Even though you can see, just considering on this kind of image, this is just imagine this is some sort of like very prehistoric background with the culture, because of each every scenario happening with the culture. And here you can see a well dominate a civilization's pattern which is very close to the Nile Valley, and also like Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and this one is a Nile Valley one. The most important case you can just clearly say, starting from the prehistory background of the earth, it's based on the sum of water resources. So those situations are getting little bit quite change in the Mars. But the things, the same sociological and the cultural patterns, it means that Homo sapiens, since starting from the 4.5 billion years, now Homo sapiens is almost more than 2 lakhs years old. So those are the people who trying to be just civilized in Mars, but our cultural patterns and our gene pattern just adaptive with this kind of situation, like the river culture and pre-open source dominate habitable patterns, and those are the things, and some of like very interesting paleo dating patterns, but those are things going to be changed in the Mars because of based on the some of different type of technology. So that is the part we may have to think. The Mars is some sort of like extreme conditions. How we going to be just popularize or civilize those things based on technology? It's something different story, because of we don't have any kind of doubt or anything about the technology, because of we can just having some of error calculations and developing and doing the R&D. Those are we can just upgrading without having any doubt, because of we can just trust technology. But the culture, how can we just upgrade in the culture and the some of phenomena like ideology, because of in the current planet there are some of hierarchies, and there are different type. That's why I already informed like different type of ethnic groups and different type of like races and countries, but how can we just united each other? That is the most important part, because of the very most reason we can't just expect anything after 100 to 200 years later, because of technology is not going to be changed. It can be just upgrading as a benefit of the Homo sapiens, but the feelings of the Homo sapiens, it's continuously changing, and exactly we can't say it. So what sort of like things that we need, so what kind of policies and regulation exactly that we need, that is the most important case we have to be analysis, because of same hierarchy system that we trying to be implemented in Mars after its colonization. So it's a still question mark. So the things that we have to be just doing. And also in here, that's why we just trying to be study some of like phenomena of space archaeology and the archaeology, and how it's going to be impacted to the Mars colonization. Starting from the like 1960 decade, there are a lot of space explorations program which is interconnected with the Mars exploration, and in here you can see there are a lot of artificial satellites around in the Mars, and also there are some of rover that already landed on the Mars. But the most important case, so how can we define the exact formations of the space archaeology in Mars? So what is the exact time period that many kind of man-made objective that's already landed on Mars? So because of still we don't have that kind of policies, because of currently it's depend on the different type of country. Like some of country they do have when it's having a sum of object having older than like 100 years, it's become like archaeological item. So other countries it's like 15 years. So that's why we need a study to terrestrial archaeology first. So after that we just send into those items to the Mars. So it's almost so long, because of some of item maybe like 30 to 40 years old. So do we have any policy or regulations? So as I already informed, those item is belonging to the patterns of archaeology in Mars. So then it is something like asking the right, because of a very basic example. If anyone need to be purchase a land on somewhere in this planet Earth, there are some of policies. So in fact, and also there are some of documentations and all the things, but currently we are just using some of extraterrestrial planet and their land and the resources. So what kind of policies and the other documentation part that we have to be known? So that is little bit important a part to a further understanding in the future, because of because if we are just trying to be compare some of patterns and the sociology, ideology and culture in the planet Earth, this one is going to be so much important to the when we study in the planet Earth Mars also. And also very simply we have been just taking some of data from the NASA Mars exploration program starting from the 1960 decade to the today. There are a lot of satellites and rovers that they have been already sent into the Mars, and some of are just orbiting around in the Mars. But the most important question, so where are those items right now, and what kind of policy background it's available? So that is the part we may have to be think. So based on those data in here, you can see we have been just systematically just located a few of landed locations that like Phoenix, Viking, Pathfinder, Opportunity Reservoir, and like most of provers are available in here. You can see considering of those data, there are some of countries already represented the land on the Mars. So it means already we know where those items. It means that where those that man-made items right now. So that is a part we may have to be just thinking in here also. You can just see the very brief video on the corner, which is represented different type of rover and representing the countries that they have been just sent into the Mars. And this is very important case. It means like you see like considering of the planet Earth, we also really interested each every country is the prehistoric and the historic background, especially like prehistoric background. You see, considering of the some of microorganism activities on the Mars, so it's belong to some of paleontological background. So still most of astrobiologists are just studying it, and same time a historical background, because of history is the part that interconnected with the human, and as well as archaeology. So that's why we have to be just so concerned of these part, like archaeological part, whereas those item and which type of country that belongs to those item. And in here you can see that one of topographical map of the Mars, and that one also just representing the different type of location on Mars which is landed, the different type of rovers and other item. But the most important case in here also, you don't see any kind of land boundaries. Still you don't see any kind of country boundaries, but I'm not sure anyone can just guarantee in the next 100 to 200 years it will be just divided, because of you see that right now we are in the planet Earth and it's already having a different type of countries, but we are united. So it means like if we do have some sort of like 200 to 300 country, doesn't matter, we are united. So that's why we need, even though on Mars, if in the future if it is having some of boundaries and the borders, so that is the something like part exactly we may have to be just think, and that's why we need to study policies and archaeology, space archaeology, ideology, and some of cultural system which is very much into the Mars. And also in here you can see in the future Mars colonization a city. This is very important case because of as I already informed you, so we may have to just think archaeological pattern, and definitely we need some of extraterrestrial cultural patterns which is relevant to the Mars, not like because of each every time we are just trying to be simulate some of things which is just matching in the Mars and planet Earth, but somehow reason it's better having some of isolation, a simulation which is matching to the Mars. So that is the most important case. So doing those kind of things, I think in the future it's so important to have international programs, private models and the international models, and same time upgrading the definitions of the activism, because of I believe some of terms, especially like archaeology and culture, those terms can be changed in the future because of the reason. Like example, like I will give you some of a term like soil, because of regarding the some of condition in planet Earth. If someone asking to describe what is the meaning of the simple term of the soil, I believe it is not going to be just that much corrected to the soil in Mars or Moon. So that's why don't think about like only planet Earth. And right now, if we are going to be just hunting the as a multiplanetary species, some of definitions has to be just changed as matching with the each every sectors, not only the planet Earth. And also like raise uncertain analysis of the humanity conservation, because of after we just having some of colonizations pattern, so it will take in 100 years later, maybe example like 2050. So if someone just asking, yes, this part is just belongs to the my side, then I'm just having this kind of amount, and what kind of rules and regulations on that time do we have, and same time the permanent scientific base and the multiplanetary culture. That's why I just already informed that comparing the each every cultures with only the our planet Earth, it's not that much perfect one. But anyhow reason, it's so important to having a very specifics and a policy and all the regulation which is just accepted to the Mars. I believe that Mars Society also working on that, and there are a lot of groups which is working with the Mars Advisory Group, which is relevant to the developing the policies, the legal background and all the things. It is very important part, better than the technology, because of that's why I told you each every time a technological part that designed by the human, and we also can just upgrade it and even change it. But the sociology, culture and archaeology, those things are some of things that human felt. Homo sapien how felt it. They are interested things. So these things can be just changed if we don't have exact policies and framework and some of point of view. So that's why in the future also we need to just think something more clarifications based on the some of archaeological patterns, especially like man-made item, and after we just sending those items to the Mars. So if they spending I think more than 100 to 200 years, will they become archaeological monuments? So that is the part we may have to be just think. And so actually that is the very simply. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for. So this is the very simply presentation which is based on the some of man-made item on Mars and human exploration. So if it is any questions, so you can just ask now.
I believe I have a question, if you allow me to, Aravinda.
Yes.
Well, first thing first, thank you very much for your valuable lecture. Very informative and very creative, as well as you have highlighted some very important points, such as the fact that the research that we have already read about Mars, and the life type of comparison that the scientists are making with the type of life that we can find on Earth. It not should be made this way, because it will like mislead the information. I found these very important. So the question is, I'm quite curious actually to know when it will be possible for Homo sapiens to visit the planet Mars and become Martian.
Yes. The very simple answer is yes.
When exactly? Because right now I see that scientists have started this huge movement forward to send humans to planet Mars, but when?
So that's why I believe that around in like 2050 going to be partially colonized. It can be possible, but the thing is that rules and regulation patterns, how it's going to be accepted to the mass, it's going to be just adapted because of after we just said sending, and because of you see single person can't develop the culture. The culture is humanity and the populations of the Homo sapiens. So it's a sum of idea of the people. It's a sum of idea of the races and nationalities and a lot of united people. So that's why we need to just having a sum of like a multidisciplinary voices to having those type of culture and all the thing. Because of I believe on Mars it will be a sum of specific things to Mars. So that is the part we have to just develop, and if we have some of framework, that is the things we have to be already developed, which is just having a very partially adapt to the Homo sapiens on there.
Thank you very much. As well, I have a second question, if you allow me to. So I am very curious to know your point of view, considering the possibility of harbor life in Mars, if it is possible or not.
Yeah, I think like how the life means how people are just going to be adapting to the extreme condition, which is based on the like petrological factors. It can be like fossilized factor, but for considering of the culture, we can't just have in a word like culture and fossilization. So because of if it is a culture, human should be there. But if you just discuss some of like terms like a hub life, so definitely it should be like we can discuss some of paleontological things, microorganisms like some of there are a lot of tubular structured and microbial things. But it's two different things. The most important things is how we going to be harboring the mass. It's a technical one. A second one is how we going to be a cultural, a civilized on the Mars, because of I think hard one. The most amazing one is second one. How we just going to be blending the some of our feeling and all the things on Mars, because of that will be so interesting. It's so hard to adapt human. So if we have already some of framework, it will be so easy.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
We've got a
welcome.
question from AltSpace VR now.
Yes, I do have a question. Humans are focused right now to go colonizing Mars. So I was like wondering what other type or what is the other planet that a human can discuss, can go and live there?
Yeah, in the future, I believe there can be a lot of planets, but no one can just find out the place like a planet Earth. That's why I already just informed. We don't need to be just having a sum of cross sections. It's technology and the culture. It's totally two different things. Human can't adapt into the technology very easily sometimes, but the culture it will take some time to blend in, because of if you are just using different type of mobile or TV or something like vehicle, you can just adapt within very minimum time. But suddenly if you are just blending to the different culture in planet Earth with just 2 to 3 days, you are just unable to adapt. So that's why we had to be just no need to just having a sum of cross sections in the technology and the culture patterns and all the other thing, whatever the planets and all the things, we are just going to be hunted in outside of the planet Earth. So in the future, I believe we will be just find out there are a lot of exoplanets and those other things. But I think after we just civilize the Mars, so it will be just stimulating to some of new directions to others, because of this is something like pilot for the hunting others.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Aravinda. I'm afraid we're out of time now, so thank you
Yeah,
very much.
yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the Mars Society.